It's alive! It's alive!
Otherworldlyculture.com presents Dead On Movie Reviews.
Salutations and mutilations, you're listening to Otherworldly Culture presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on Otherworldlyculture.com and on future select Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join our live chat at that time by clicking on the live shows link on the Otherworldlyculture.com website. I'm your host, Tim Kretschmann, coming to you from the land of lakes and landfills, beautiful and smelly Muskego, Wisconsin. I keep trying to go faster because I have more and more to say at the beginning of these shows because we are now part of 4 rotating shows that are Dead On Thursdays. So on alternating weeks, you'll see Dead On the Bases, our horror sports mashup, Horror Realm Radio, which is the official podcast of Pittsburgh's Horror Realm Convention, and our newest offering that's coming this Halloween, Now Streaming, which is a panel discussion on a film on a free ad-supported streaming service. Also, to kick things off today, want to make a special note. We'd like to thank the 1980s Now podcast for their recent mention of our shows. We'd like to welcome anyone coming over from that show here. Though we don't have an 80s film tonight, we have a sequel to a big 80s movie. We do have a lot of 80s horror films that we review on here as well, because it is the greatest decade that has ever occurred. So thanks to Will, Kat, and John. For those of you that don't know, you can check out their very fun show virtually anywhere podcasts are available, or their website, which is 1980snow.com, which this Midwesterner always just reads 1980 snow, because, it's snowing all the time, but it's 1980snow.com. Please, everybody, remember to rate us, like us, and follow us on any of the podcast applications you use or on Twitch and YouTube. It really does help us find new viewers, so we keep doing our programming here at Otherworldly Culture. That was way too much stuff. It is now my honor to introduce to you the Faculty of Fear panel presenting tonight's lectures. We start with Adam Holtzapfel. He's back from the Diz and taking a whiz on a new movie tonight. And as usual, he exhaustively searched every nook, every cranny, every dark corner of the internet by clicking a single button marked Shutter. He is the Taco King. Here's Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
That's really not true this week, because usually you have something extremely obscure, and I don't think we can call Shaun of the Dead obscure by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and I don't think it's actually streaming anywhere, so this was the good old physical media viewing. Yeah.
That is the best reason to have the physical media, is these guys take stuff off the streaming and you're looking for it. I know Amazon Prime, for those of you that are fellow Prime subscribers like me, they just dumped a ton of Universal movies, but not Frankenstein. Frankenstein was not put out there. They put out Dracula, the Wolfman. They did a lot of the classics, not Frankenstein. Last year, I remember Frankenstein being on there, so you just never know. Hailing from the Motor City, Detroit, Michael Cieslak is a lifetime reader and writer of horror, mystery, and speculative fiction. He has served as an officer in the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers. He's the editor of the Eerie Tales anthologies. Michael is the editor-in-chief of Dragon's Roost press, and his works have appeared in a number of collections, including DOA, Extreme Horror, Dead Science, Vicious Verses, and Reanimated Rhymes, and the collaborative steampunk novel Army of Brass. He is a kilt enthusiast, and he's killing it over at the dragonsroost.biz. Hello, Mike.
Hello. And we're going to see if we can add a couple more things this year to make sure that I continue to hold the record for world's longest intro.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
I want to shout out a second reason to have things on physical media. We lost power last week, but we're out in the sticks, so we have a generator, naturally. Unfortunately, we also lost the internet tower nearby. Oh. So we had no TV since we do everything through Roku. So we actually were able to pull out some DVDs and Blu-rays and watch those.
Yeah, I think your DTE, didn't they have some people out for like 4 days, 5 days out there? We were one of the last ones to get it back, and they got the trucks rolled up on our street just as we were pulling out of the driveway to go away for the holiday weekend. Of course, that's how it always is. All right. Well, we also want to introduce our newest panelist. That's Suzy MacIntyre. Alternatively, she's sometimes known as a snowflake or Ice Princess. But Suze loves Poltergeist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, which I've yet to even see. So Suzy will be our host for the upcoming now streaming program coming to Dead on Thursdays. So here she is, Suzy.
Hi. That's all I got.
Don't worry. Yay! We'll lengthen the introductions as they go on. We decide what we're going to pick on you about. Though you're already wearing a crown, so we know where this is going to be going.
Every snow princess needs a crown. I just happen to have 37.
Jeez. All right. Well, everybody, keep your ass in your seat, sharpen your pencil. Let's get unruly with the Faculty of Fear. We're going to start with our friend Adam. Adam, what have you been watching?
Yeah, so I watched Shaun of the Dead recently. Thought it was a good revisit since it turns 20 this month. Where's the time gone?
That was a summer release?
Yeah, September 24th, so...
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, late summer, early fall.
I'm still living in August. I haven't quite given it up yet. Okay. Yeah, it's September, at the end of September, that's when the Halloween movies come out. Okay.
Yeah, it's put Edgar Wright on the map, so, a lot of people familiar with his Marvel stuff, but this and the TV series Spaced are what kind of...
Didn't he do Baby Driver, too? I think
he did Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim. Yeah.
Okay.
This, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as Shaun.
Uh-oh. Adam?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you again.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, this...
Oh, my God. We're doing so good. We had like 3 minutes in a row where nothing broke. Wow. Adam?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Your microphone, I think, is getting cut out. When you're shooting your neighbors, the microphone is cutting out because of the noise suppression, I think. So you need to take a little break from shooting them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try again. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, so he's saying this has one of the best scenes in cinema. It's the scene where Shaun wakes up the day everything turns to shit. Mm-hmm. You see him going about his mundane life. Not noticing people have turned into the undead. It's just one shot, chaos, and he's just like, it's a Tuesday or whatever. Nothing different for him. The comedy in this still holds up. It's a really well done blend of horror and comedy, which most films in that genre missed the middle road, and I think this kind of nailed that. Good effects, great acting and casting. And there's also a couple really dramatic scenes involving his stepfather and mom. So overall, I think if you haven't seen this, I feel it's kind of still an underrated movie. People that love it. People that haven't seen it, I don't know why. And it's just one of those movies that I feel needs more appreciation. So
I think this is the best of, what do they call it? The Cornet or Cornetto?
the trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cornetto trilogy. Yep.
Yeah, I think this is the best one by like a serious margin. I don't even like Hot Fuzz or whatever that second one was.
See, I love Hot Fuzz. I think it's a perfect blend of The Wicker Man meets Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay.
Like it shouldn't work, but it does. If you go in expecting one or the other, I could see how you hate it. But I think, again, it takes the folk horror aspect and adds a buddy cop layer to it, and it shouldn't work, but it does. So,
okay. Can we all agree, though, that End of the World was the worst of the three?
I remember nothing about that movie. I need to revisit it.
You lucky bastard.
Exactly. That's a trilogy where they should have done it the way that the Traveling Wilburys did, where you just say, yeah, it's a trilogy and you only make two. And like, okay, that's good enough. Let everybody think that they're missing one. All right. Well, I think it's time then. Sound like you were wrapping things up. Is it grading time?
Yeah, I think so. I'd give this a strong A. Like, not really a ton of faults with it, and it just holds up. The comedy still hits. The makeup and effects still hold up. It doesn't feel aged for being 20 years old. It feels pretty current still. So
very cool. All right. Okay, so that is Shaun of the Dead. I gotta believe that they're gonna be showing this at local movie theaters with the 20th anniversary going on. So folks should keep their eyes open for screenings of this one.
Yeah, I think it's only being shown at AMC theaters.
Okay. Yeah. So everybody check it. I would say check your local listings, but what the hell is that these days? So
check your phone. That's
right.
what you do now.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, little Miss Technology over there. Okay, so let's get into the next one. Mike, what have you been watching?
I have been spending some time. Actually, for 3 weeks, I have been obsessing about one of my all-time favorite horror villains, and that would be the progeny of this little guy here.
Oh, he's cute, though.
Yes, oh, he's so fluffy. Anywho, go over there. You have no idea how difficult it was for me to choose which one of the various alien props I was going to pull over here, because I have a ridiculous number of xenomorphs. I've got a like this guy, a fuzzy chest burster. I've got a number of Funko Pops. if you go onto my Substack, you can see a picture of my fireplace where I've got these two massive stone things that are actually reproductions of the original Geiger, I never say his name right,
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
I've got the Nerf version of the gun from Aliens. I'm just a dork. I'm a huge fan of the Xenomorphs, but I will come flat out and say that I am not necessarily a huge fan of the Alien franchise. I think we can all agree that there are
it's a mixed bag,
more
isn't
misses
it?
than hits here.
Yeah, there's a real mixed bag when it comes to Alien. And I will admit that, the slideshow that I'm showing before I get called on it, yeah, I have a mix of different Alien movies. I tried to get a bunch from Alien Romulus, but I just grabbed all sorts of stuff because I think the alien is the star of all these movies.
The
Agreed.
cat is. No, the cat.
Ripley's only, or Jonesy's only in the first two. I think we can all agree that you can
And
never
that's why
forgive
the
them.
others suck.
We'll never forgive them for killing off Newt and Hicks off screen.
Yeah.
Although I've seen a lot of people that are coming back around to Alien 3. Alien 4 is hot garbage, but at least it's kind of entertaining hot garbage.
Yeah.
I actually kind of enjoy the first AVP movie.
So you're the one.
I've had the other AVP movie on.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've actually seen it because they never turn on the fucking lights.
Yeah.
Darkest movie ever, and not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cannot talk about the last two Ridley Scott films because the last time I did that was a couple weekends ago, and the heart rate alarm on my I'm not kidding. The heart rate alarm on my fitness tracker went off, and I was at 120 beats per minute. I was so pissed off by those movies.
You know what gets me mad about those movies? What is somebody monitoring Mike? Somebody keep an eye on him. If he starts clutching at his chest, just let me know to stop. But what bothers me about that movie is when you say something not nice about those movies, people always say to me, well, you're just not smart enough to understand it. Or you just don't get it. And it's like, no, I think I'm smart enough. I just think the movie is crap. It doesn't remember why we loved the first movie and really enjoyed the second movie as well.
And it's an interesting argument that you can have at that point, too, because it's like, okay, the Alien movies went in this direction, but that might not have been Ridley Scott's direction. So he was trying to do like a course correct, like, this is what I wanted them to be. But I think most moviegoers are like, yeah, you can take your black goo and shove it up an engineer's butt. Anywho.
Well, what have we got this time? Because
that's as I was like, let's
the
rein
first
this back in and talk about the one that I saw recently.
Okay.
If you love the first two movies, you are going to have some nostalgia pains watching this one.
Okay.
The visuals and the sound are such a good match for Alien and Aliens. There's it just looks like Alien. The scenes that take place on this crap hole mining planet before we get up onto Romulus, which is half of a space station, they really look kind of like walking around the Nostromo. Once they get up there, they do a soft dock their ship with the space station, and the doorway is an iris that opens up just like the ones on the Nostromo, and it sounds just like the Nostromo. And I am going to fully admit that some of my grade on this one will have been tinged by nostalgia in that way.
Right. Yep.
It feels like an Alien movie, although there are some things you have to kind of forgive them for. Apparently, that big atomic explosion we saw at the end of Alien didn't wipe out all of the Nostromo. There was enough left that they were able to grab some alien samples, and that's what is on this space station, which has gone careening off of where it was and is now hovering over this mining planet, but the company hasn't noticed that it's there somehow.
Okay.
So the plot is that this group of young people, and they're young people because, Hollywood hates anyone over the age of 25 now, so they have to be young people, or at least older people playing young people. They're going to go up there. They're going to steal some cryo chambers so they can sleep the 9 years it'll take them to get to a better place.
Okay.
They run into problems. Things ensue. And just in case people haven't seen it yet, I don't want to give too much away.
Right. It just came out about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's best to do that. Now, I noticed you said one of the things that I've been seeing tear up social media has been, Alien Romulus, it's a bunch of young people in the movie. In fact, my favorite was somebody said, it's a bunch of the MTV age kids. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, do you even know what MTV kids look like today?
Yeah, that was
written
by someone who actually watched MTV back when the M stood for music television.
Right.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, is MTV even a thing anymore at all?
It's a reality station now.
Yeah, I think it's just reruns of Jersey Shore now and Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not going to have a problem with it being a bunch of young people because Sigourney Weaver was not 40 when they made the original Alien. And Newt is one of my favorite of all time child characters in any sort of film. So certainly the Alien franchise has known how to deal with youth in the past. I understand it. The other thing is people don't like to shell out money for celebrities for horror films.
This is true.
We know this because, on my other show, we're constantly saying, this celebrity, here's where they started. And it was, again, a horror movie. And so I guess that doesn't get me too much. I was shocked how much money they sunk into this movie because the Alien films, despite the first one being a quote unquote hit and Alien 2 being a hit, the rest of the movies don't make good money. So I was kind of surprised how much they dumped into this thing.
I wonder if the idea was that they are banking on this being a return to form. Because I know there were just a ton of advertising when Prometheus came out about, it was a return to the Alien franchise, which I will debate you on.
Yeah. It was totally different. My thing with Prometheus and that is like, okay, that's a different series. That's something else.
That's exactly what I said somewhere else. It is actually an interesting concept too.
Right.
And if you wanted to pursue that and not slap the Alien name on it, I would be fine with that. But to try to shoehorn the rest of that in, I felt was unnecessary. And then there's the whole not being able to run away from a giant circular spaceship that's rolling after you by going to the side. But
yeah,
the heart rate thing. David Johnson, who was on a second ago on the slide, does an amazing job as the glitchy synthetic Andy. There he is right there.
Okay.
The glitchy synthetic Andy, who is his fallback is to do dad jokes. And I won't go into too much more about why his performance is so great.
Okay.
If you were interested in it, go to the um, Otherworldly Culture website. Read the spoiler part of the review.
Okay.
The first 2/3 of this movie, I think, are really, really good. They do some amazing visuals with the face huggers. There's some zero gravity scenes that were done really, really well, in my opinion. Freddie Alvarez's horror cred comes in a couple of the scenes that are gorier than I think you would expect from something in the Alien franchise, with the exception of things bursting out. I mean, it's just like live people having bad things happen to them that I really enjoyed. Right around that 2/3 of the 2/3 mark, it kind of went downhill for me, and it became kind of a greatest hits of the Alien franchise, where I was sitting there going, "Oh yeah, I remember that shot from this movie," and "Oh yeah, that's kind of like that," and "Oh god, they went there with that," and the big final boss, I absolutely hate it.
Oh.
I've heard other people say that they enjoyed the look of it. I did not care for the look of this guy. It reminded me of some of what I think are the worst portions of the Alien franchise. But that being said, I did, for the most part, enjoy the movie.
Okay. Now, you know that Dan Trachtenberg, the director of Prey, which to my mind was Predator's reboot.
Yes.
Dan Trachtenberg, Fede Alvarez has said, "Hey, why don't we make an Alien versus Predator movie, and you direct half and I'll direct half?" And
I would watch that all day.
Would you?
Yes, I actually really enjoyed Prey, and I think if they were not, I think not. I'm trying to be spoiler free. Some of the things that I disliked about this movie come from the fact that it does touch on, I think it touches on just about every one of the canon films. So we're excluding the AVP movies. I think it kind of like brings in a piece from here, a piece from there, a piece from here, and it brings in pieces from the movies that I didn't care for.
Okay. But with Prey, I'd like to mention that because I saw that one. I haven't seen this one yet. With Prey, my thought all the time was we finally got a payoff to that musket that was found in Predator 2. I've been wanting this movie for over 30 years or whatever it was at the time. So I was very excited about Prey, and I'm a big fan of Dan Trachtenberg. So glad to see him get some success with that. But I think we're at that portion, Mike.
I believe we are.
Okay. We still got to come up with a good way to let me know. Well, that was last. Okay. What is your grade for this film?
I am going to give this one a B-. With the caveat that part of that, like I said, was watching this through the nostalgia goggles. But for the visuals, for the sound design, the setup of those shots that I was talking about, your mileage may vary depending on how you feel. I think if it was even keeping the elements that I didn't like, if it had been a little bit shorter, it might have been a little bit, the grade might have been a little higher on there.
Is this movie watchable if you haven't seen the other films?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
You do not need. This is set in between the first and second films, so I think just the amount of information you would gain on the xenomorph and like the xenomorph life cycle, just through pop culture osmosis, I think you could go into this one blind without even having seen the original film. I think you would still be able to follow this without any problems. You might actually enjoy it a little more because when you get to that 2/3 mark, you're not going, "Oh yeah, that was like that," or "Oh yeah, that was like that."
Okay. I will admit the original Alien, the ads, the radio ads in particular for that used to freak me to hell out.
Oh my god.
The sound of that, that thing is just crazy. But
my
no one
best
being
friend
able
growing
to hear
up,
you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We would sneak into his brother's room,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a long closet that was actually an attic, and he was tired of us going in there, so he had managed to score the standee of the xenomorph that was in the life-size one, and put it about halfway back, so you didn't see it until you turned the light on. And I was 10 years old in 1979, so we did not try to steal his comic books for quite a while after that.
I remember they actually came out with like an action figure that the secondary mouth would come out. And I remember going, what am I seeing? My mom won't even let me see this movie.
Why are you marketing this toy, period?
That Mr. Ebert to Mr. Siskel told me you don't even get to see the monster that good in the movie. Now I can buy it at Target. All right. Well, it is time to move to our new panelist. Suzy, what have you been watching?
Take a guess. Anyway, no, I got to see Beetlejuice. I got to go, Beetlejuice. I got to go to an early release of it.
Okay.
I have zero trivia or cool facts. I did not go into the internet at all. I literally, for the first time, and I don't know how long, completely shielded myself from everything leading up to this movie. I didn't watch anything. I didn't even talk to anyone today. I stayed home from work. I shielded myself from Facebook. Like, literally, I hid under a blanket today with my 4 cats. No one was going to ruin the euphoria I had for seeing Beetlejuice.
All right.
I'm a little over the top.
Tell us about it.
Honestly, I loved every single freaking thing about this movie.
Really?
Everything.
Okay.
It was the most amazing night that I've had in a long time. I don't know if I would necessarily say that if I was watching it home from my couch, but I loved every freaking thing about this movie. I have not had that much excitement buzzing around in a theater in probably 15 years. It was, talk about nostalgia, it was just like being a little kid again. The seats were packed. I could not tell you the last time I went to a movie theater where the seats were packed from long before COVID. There were ushers that actually escorted everybody to their seats, like back when we were little. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about the experience way more than the movie because it was just freaking awesome.
Okay.
Half of the theater was in cosplay, so it wasn't just me. There were all kinds of people dressed up. It was awesome. The other half were just like high-fiving us, thinking it was amazing. It was awesome. There were 2 kids next to me that I don't even think were born when Beetlejuice came out, and they never stopped laughing the entire movie. Like, they totally got it, and you don't see that anymore.
I was just going to ask you, Suzy, the age of the audience, was it a lot of people that obviously saw and loved the first movie, or did you have a bunch of young stuff in there, or
it was everything. There were like us middle-aged people. There were a bunch of old people. There were a bunch of little kids. It was everything. It was a family event. I like I said, I haven't experienced something like, and it was a Wednesday night. Who goes and packs a movie theater ever and on a Wednesday night? It was great. It was awesome. Literally, people were applauding through the whole thing. It was not one person even got up when the credits ended. Like, it was a packed house. Credits were rolling. Everyone still just sat there on the edge of their seats. And then there was this dramatic sigh that united the entire audience when there was no post-credit. So that was that. But the rest of it was freaking awesome. I do not want to discuss any details because I cannot stress enough. Everybody should flock to the theater and see this for themselves on the big screen. Like, it's just, you have to see it. Do not watch it at home on your phones with your little animals distracting you. You need to go to the movie theaters. You need to get the popcorn bucket, and you need to just love this movie. It was an hour and 44 minutes. That is important to me because when I watch a movie, I'm obnoxious and I do get my phone out and I set my timer and I make notes as to how many times I check my phone. With that being said, 1 hour and 7 minutes were left of the movie when I snapped my little thing and said, I know how this is going to end. I thought for sure that I was going to be disappointed and that all of Jenna Ortega's little overly angsty attitudes that we've all gotten accustomed to being, I don't know, tired of, no offense to her, but she needs a new character. But I thought that between those two things, I was going to check my phone like 5 times. I never checked it again. Even though I figured it out what was going to happen, I never checked it again. I was not disappointed. I'm incredibly nervous now, though, so I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget it. There was one character that I thought was pointless. I don't know why they were in there. It did not help the story. I feel like Tim Burton put the person in there just because if he got bored with the storyline, he could change it at the very end. But other than that, I don't know. I thought it was awesome. I was disappointed that they did not. The people that weren't there, that were from the original, they explained everybody's disappearance except for what's the big pompous guy's name? Otho? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, he was also in Demolition Man. What the heck was his name?
He was missing. They didn't even mention him.
Okay.
I was disappointed with that. The only tidbit that I did get going into this was that both Michael Keaton and Tim Burton, they said that they wanted to stay true. They didn't want like all the special effects that we have now and stuff. They kind of wanted to stay true to the original. And I kind of feel like they actually did do that. I feel like they captured that a lot. Michael Keaton was perfect. He acted like, he played Beetlejuice like he just played it yesterday. He didn't try to oversell it. He was just effortless. It was perfect.
How did he look? Because that was an 80s movie, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, but, he has the makeup on.
Ago.
He has a little bit more of a belly, but other than that, he looked like Beetlejuice. He acted like Beetlejuice. It was great. Okay. It was like no time. Yeah. Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, they stayed true to their characters, but with adding a little bit of growth, which was kind of neat to see. But they weren't stale, but they didn't oversell it. They didn't try too hard. The other people in it, Justin Theroux, and I don't know who the other guys are. Don't really care who they were. They weren't needed, but they really weren't. They could have just had those same core 4 or 5 characters, and it still would have been just as great with or without the new people. It's my thoughts. Overall, I thought it was delightful. I don't think they tried too hard. It was fun. It had a freaking great soundtrack. I sat there and I did the white middle-aged girl shimmy through the entire movie. But it wasn't just me. You could tell the entire theater was doing it. I couldn't stop shimmying. It was just the only downside to it, honestly, besides Jenna Ortega's teen angst, was that it was a Wednesday night. So, like I said, everybody loved it. Everybody was hyped up. Everybody that was in cosplay was high-fiving each other, asking each other where they got their costumes. Then it ended. It was Wednesday night. We're all hyped up on our ices and our junior mints and the crisp fall air, and it's okay, now let's go home.
Yeah.
So and then I had to sit here and hide under a blanket with 4 cats and wait for 24 hours to pass until I could give my review. The only other thing the only one thing that I will say is the ending. It did not end the way that I wanted to. At least I don't think it did, and I will leave it at that. I'm not going to explain it anymore, but just go to your theater and see it on the big screen with a giant thing of popcorn.
All right. Well,
and a cherry Coke icy.
I'm glad to hear that they didn't CGI this up, because I remember even the original film, it seemed like the special effects were a little bit behind even then. It was like he kind of went out of his way in the original movie to make sure you could tell that it was special effects. They were already a little bit slicker than what he was putting out on screen.
And some of those effects, they had the same exact ones here, so it kind of tied it in, and but they didn't try too hard. I think, at least for me, they captured exactly what they should have. I don't know, but again, I'm going to stress, if I was sitting here watching at home, I don't know if I would have had that awesome of an experience.
There is something about seeing a movie with an audience when the audience is with it. There's also something that happens with a movie when the audience is not with it, that also makes it somewhat more enjoyable.
And it was the first showing. There were no spoilers. No
Right.
one else had seen it before. None of us saw a review. Like, everyone was just completely captured by it. And the soundtrack was awesome. I want to watch it again just so I can sit there and...
Well, wow. All right. Well, we're getting to that point where we ask you about your grade. What would you grade Beetlejuice? I have to be careful I don't say it 3 times. Beetlejuice.
I would give it an A. I can't give it an A+. A solid A, though.
All right. Well, that's a very solid grade, particularly on this show. So we tend to be a little mean.
It was fun. I guess that's the thing. It was fun. It wasn't overly anything. It was just fun, and you don't get that anymore.
You really don't. Well, thanks so much, Suzy, and we're looking forward to having you as a regular panelist from time to time on this show, and as the host of Now Streaming, premiering again on Halloween. And now we go. I'm sorry, you're stuck with me here, so somebody's got to kibitz me a certain amount. Adam, this is a movie I believe you reviewed just before we ended last season, just before summer. The movie that I'm reviewing, of course, is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, which was I guess a continuation of a fake trailer they put into the movie Grindhouse when that was sent out with Planet Terror and Death Proof, and they kind of threw this in the middle. A lot of people made the facetious comment that the trailers were better than the movies. I don't know that I agree with that, but enough people were interested in that trailer that they said, well, let's go ahead and make a movie Thanksgiving. I watched this because Karen Cliche and Alex Ambruster were announced to be in this year's Horror Realm convention. I thought, I better get my ass in front of a TV and watch this thing. I want to know if I enjoy it or not. Now, I will tell you going in, I'm not an Eli Roth fan. I'm not a hater, but I thought Cabin Fever was extremely average, and the Hostel films were really torture porn at its least creative, in my thoughts. It's not my favorite subgenre of horror. Let's face it, I'm a monster guy. This is not a monster movie, so I came in kind of at a disadvantage for Eli Roth. I was told by many, including Adam here on the panel, to give this a chance. So I went in and I said, okay, let's try to put that stuff away, and I'll just watch this movie the way that it unfolds. I actually enjoyed a fair amount of it, a fair amount more than I expected to, for sure, but I actually found myself enjoying it, that I thought it was a better than average film. There's nothing groundbreaking here, but that's kind of the fun of the whole thing. It's a typical slasher, like the good old days. Now, what it is these kills are much gorier than most. I would say Hatchet is probably akin as far as violence and goriness. But other than that, most of the slasher movies are not nearly as gory as this was. And they tried to be creative, and they fit in that Thanksgiving theme as much as they could. It was overly ridiculous to do that ear of corn gag that they had. That was just corny. But for the most part, it was workable. Now, Patrick Dempsey is the biggest star here, and he does a credible job in his role. Our guest, Karen Cliche, frankly, I thought she had one of the most suspenseful sequences in the entire movie. I thought well, let's face it, she's a blonde in one of these movies. She's gonna get killed. She had a longer sequence of being stalked and all that, and I really enjoyed her performance. I can't say that I connected with our killer. Our killer, I was like, here we go. And this killer is more of the Scream variety. And by that I mean back in the good old days, in the 80s, when you had a slasher, there really wasn't a question who the slasher was. I mean, you get their full name. Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Meyer. You get the whole name and you know their whole backstory. You know everything about them, and there's something a little supernatural about them. This is more of the Scream model, where it's basically an Agatha Christie movie, because it's all about, well, who is that killer behind the mask? Who is that killer? It's something I always didn't like, that type of slasher as much. A lot of that is because I'm a monster guy, particularly if you look at something like Friday the 13th Part 6. Jason is basically Frankenstein by that time, complete with being awakened by lightning. So I guess this isn't my type of slasher film on paper, but I felt like the acting was a little bit better than I see in a lot of these films. And I was shocked to learn that Eli Roth can actually direct his way out of a paper bag. Now, having said this, remember this movie's being shot at the same time as his video game movie that came out. What was it, Borderlands that came out? Yeah, that movie came out in the theaters and nobody even noticed. And he had huge stars in that movie. So I kind of wonder if Eli Roth wanted to finish this movie fast before that movie destroyed his name in Hollywood. I usually see Eli Roth as being as subtle and nuanced as a jackhammer cutting open a birthday cake, but he does show some craft here. There's a scene, I don't know what you would call it, cosmetology room, where there's a lot of mannequin heads, and they, we've seen it a million times, the E.T. in the doll closet scene where somebody just kind of blends in with the surroundings. I thought that scene was done pretty well. The Karen Cliche part was set up nicely. One thing I thought was absolutely, I'm done with this, was the setup was about Black Friday, right? There was a kind of like a Walmart type store that was having a special on Black Friday, and things, quote, got out of hand, and people were injured and killed. Okay, I'm so tired of that. Has anybody gone to Black Friday in the last 10 years? It's actually kind of boring these days. Everybody's bought their stuff well in advance on an app, and they're just picking it up. When I went last year, where the action was is in the parking lot. People just pulling up, picking up their TV, and out the door. And they had it set up that it was just a real smooth in and out type of thing. I think if you're going to set this in modern day, you can't have that sequence anymore, because it just doesn't happen. These stores have figured out how to throttle that type of stuff. I will say the key sequences in this movie, the set pieces, the murders, Eli Roth shows a good hand at directing the suspense. And he did instead of just going for the kill, which I think Adam Green does quite a bit in Hatchet, as much as I like Green, he isn't quite as impatient. He allows the scene to breathe a little bit and get you at least a little bit of suspense. So, is this my favorite slasher movie? No. Is it a better than average slasher movie? In my mind, yes. But keep in mind, this isn't a Freddy Krueger. This is more of the Scream style of slasher. I almost feel like there should be another name for this type of horror movie. I would call it an Agatha Christie film because it's a mystery that has a whole lot of blood in it. And if you ever read any of the Agatha Christie novels, you are going to see that type of approach, that they are kind of gory. So, any questions before I get to the grade?
Just a comment. I think that there are movies that you would consider slashers that have that mystery element in them. It's just not the ones that turn into franchises. It's like you don't ever really find out anything about Billy in Black Christmas. They try to, everyone knows by now what happens at the end of Sleepaway Camp, but going into that blind, you kind of don't know. So I think it's just the ones that were successful enough to be have a large return on their investment, that they became major characters where you actually know their names going in. And as someone that worked retail the last couple of Black Fridays, it depends entirely on the store, because some stores will deliberately try to screw over their employees.
Well,
so I'm going to say about that, because I'm still worried about the heart monitor.
I think there is a genre for that slasher, though, because you keep comparing it to Scream, and Scream had Skeet, and Thanksgiving has Patrick, and so there's hot guys are the killers. That's the kind of movie I want.
I love it.
I'll kind of echo what Mike said. You don't know Billy's story from Black Christmas, and you could even take it one step further with a lot of the Argento and Fulci Giallo movies, where you have the black gloved killers and you don't know their story, they just slash people. So
well, I think I'm on record that I deeply prefer to have a film where where am I going with this? Where you don't know the whole background of the character.
Yeah.
I prefer having that monster shark out there that you're like, well, what set this dude off? I think that's more horrifying than being able to connect with them, which is my whole argument that I have frequently with people regarding the Halloween movie, the original John Carpenter and the Rob Zombie one. I don't even see those as being that similar of a film, because one is almost like an apology for, hey, this kid was brought up like garbage, so of course he's going to grow up to be garbage.
And one is an actual movie by a real director, and the other one is Rob Zombie's movie.
Right. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But I mean, I get it. What I want to say is what we're watching here, this film is more of a mystery, and I think it's based on the emphasis of it.
I don't think it was. I knew what was going to happen in the first 5 minutes.
That doesn't make it not a mystery. That doesn't make it not a mystery. My favorite mystery series on television was Columbo.
The minute he walked in with that pie, I knew what was going to happen. But it doesn't matter. It's Patrick Dempsey, and he's hot. I will watch him every day of my life.
Yeah, we got Suzy just spoiling all sorts of stuff over there.
Who out there has not seen this movie already?
I haven't.
Really?
But I don't like Eli Roth, so I probably won't. So it's no big deal.
You know, here's the thing to keep in mind. Not everybody has Netflix. This seems to be foreign knowledge to some folks, but not everybody does. So not everybody has seen this thing yet, despite a lot of people getting to see it because it popped up on their screen last Thanksgiving on Netflix. I'm not a Netflix subscriber. I had to get it by Rook and by Crook to finally get to see this thing. So anyway, let's get to my grade on this thing, and we can lay it to rest. And I'm going to tell you, it's one of my higher slasher ratings. I'm going to be giving it a B.
Whoa!
Despite all the concerns I had about the film, I found myself, you know, much like Suzy was talking about checking her timer, how many times she checks a timer to kind of tell her if she's enjoying a movie or not. I'm kind of the same way when I'm watching a movie at home. If I don't reach over to my laptop and start screwing around on Facebook and, you know, sending 500 promos about what's going to be on Dead on Thursday that week, I consider that a real success. That's a success story. I've been known to do that during foreign films that are subtitled, and after about 10 minutes, I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened? I don't even know, because all I've heard is Japanese gibberish coming out of my speakers for all that time. So for me, this is an extremely good grade for this category. I think the mystery aspect, even though Suzy saw throw it in the first 5 minutes, I found that portion of things kind of kept me moving through it and made it more than just a typical murder-a-thon that you get with these flicks. So I enjoyed it more than I expected to by a large margin. It was actually pretty surprising to me how much I did enjoy it. All right. Well, we are at the portion of the show where we just we do a lot of plugging of things. So let's talk about next week on Dead on Thursdays here. We are going to have another Dead on movie reviews next week here on Otherworldly Culture on Twitch. I do know a few of the movies that we're going to be reviewing, not all of them, and I'm just going to say you're going to want to tune in for all the fun. I also want to remind everybody that our good friend Mike Cieslak, you can check out his things at thedragonsroost.biz. Remember that the dragon has an S after it. Do not type this in wrong. Remember the at the beginning, or you go to other places. So thedragonsroost.biz. Is there anything new that people should look out for at your site, Mike?
I just dumped a whole bunch of links in the chat, but if you go to the blog that's on there, there are a bunch of links for things that are just recent or upcoming soon. We've got a Kickstarter that's starting next week. I started a Substack about a month ago, and I've managed to post every Wednesday. It's absolutely amazing. I haven't missed yet. Between now and the next time I'm on in October, I'm going to be doing 3 conventions, 2 in this area, which is the Detroit area, Wicked Bazaar in Belleville, and Frankenfest, which is a big one, down at Fort Wayne in Detroit. It's actually in the old fort. It's amazing. There's a ton of people there. And then I'll be in St. Louis at the beginning of October for the Scares That Care AuthorCon 4. And I am also looking to see how far I can go in the Faces of Horror competition. So vote soon and vote often.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for all of that. And then, of course, we do have to bring out that we are only 175 days until Horror Realm in Pittsburgh. 4 guests have been announced. 2 from tonight's movie, Thanksgiving, which I always have to be careful I don't call Thanksgiving. That's a very different movie. And 2 from the classic zombie film Return of the Living Dead, which, despite what my partner Jeff said on Dead on the Bases, which was just complete nonsense that was coming out of his mouth once again, it's a good movie. And people should go see it. It's a lot of fun. So that is coming to Pittsburgh February 28th. Only, 175 days. Seems like it'll be tomorrow before you know it. Remember, everybody, you can check us out on all the social medias. Give us a look on Twitter, Facebook, all of that. We got links in the show notes, and we'll have to grab Mike's links, and we'll put those in the show notes. So
thank you, sir.
Wherever you are, you can grab a hold of those. I did not memorize them all, though, Mike. So I'm looking at these. I'm like, that's a cut and paste. That's a cut and paste.
That's exactly what I did.
I am not
typed them out
that
at
in.
4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, it's a lot. And remember, everybody, you can reach us at otherworldlyculture.com. Go to the About Us page and just click on our little faces, and it'll send us an email. It's typically our first name and at otherworldlyculture.com, and that'll get to us. And someday when we have enough of this stuff coming, we might do a mail show. Who knows? We're constantly adding new things. Want to thank everybody for joining us today, all of you great listeners and viewers out there, and our hosts, Adam Holtzapfel, Mike Cieslak, and Suzy MacIntyre, also the Ice Princess. Oh my God. I'm not going to get used to this. All right, everybody. Until next time, when you aim at horror, make sure you are dead on. See you next time. Otherworldlyculture.com.